Gossip, gossip.
Steady gossip.
What's up, world? You're tuned into 423 FM. You already know we've got you covered with your daily dose of celebrity drama. Now let's get into it. Everyone loves Ellen DeGeneres. Her talk show has been on the air for nearly 2 decades, and to this day, it's one of the hardest tapings to get into, with waiting lists that span years. She's known for her philanthropic spirit, constantly bringing guests on her show to shine a light on positivity and gift less fortunate people with money, prizes, and other gifts that can seriously change their lives. At the 2020 Golden Globes, Ellen was honored with the Carol Burnett Award. Fellow comedian Kate McKinnon cried as she talked about how important it was that DeGeneres paved the way for all gay people on television, giving her flowers while she can still smell them. But behind the scenes, Ellen's reputation has become quite the opposite. Rumors that she treats her employees terribly and creates a hostile work environment have been floating around the entertainment industry for years. So, what changes when the cameras stop rolling? The backlash started in 2007 when all 12,000 film and television screenwriters of the Writers Guild of America went on strike. Like most strikes, they wanted more money and sought increased funding for writers in comparison to the profits of the larger studios. Talk show hosts like Jon Stewart, Jay Leno, David Letterman, and Conan O'Brien all vowed to pay their writers out of pocket during this strike, but not Ellen. While she stated publicly that she supported the strike, she caught a ton of backlash for crossing picket lines and continuing to film her show anyway, writing her monologue herself or skipping over it completely while her writers were striking. For many, this lack of solidarity was the first sign that Ellen DeGeneres doesn't give a shit about her employees, and now that's become a running theme. Like I mentioned before, it's a not-so-well-kept industry secret that Ellen isn't exactly peaches and cream behind the scenes. This is such a big topic right now, following Ellen's appearance at the Golden Globes because of this tweet that went viral. It says, "The craziest thing about Ellen is everyone in LA pretends she doesn't have an extremely high turnover rate and isn't constantly hiring on LinkedIn." This caused an avalanche of replies echoing the above statement, with others putting in their 2 cents and adding their own horror stories. The first reply says, "Funny thing is, that's literally the only thing I've heard about her from people in LA. It's all an act, she's really so mean, she's so terrible to her employees." Another reply is from someone claiming their cousin's artwork was essentially stolen by Ellen when she brought it out during an episode and took credit for making it. And another reply reads, "Working in the TV industry, I've heard so many negative stories from friends and associates about her. At some point, I had to turn off the assumption that people are unfairly hard on her and just accept that she treats people under her poorly. The nice Ellen on TV is an act." But while all these stories spread the same sentiment, they're not exactly first-hand accounts. Luckily, I am from Los Angeles, so I actually know a few people who work or have worked on her show, and I was able to get some specific stories that mimic these rumors. But before we get into that, let's look at some public info. One of the big criticisms of Ellen and her show is that they have a high turnover rate and are constantly hiring new people rather than promoting from within, or maybe the job is so bad that people quit before that's even a possibility. As Alexis stated in the aforementioned viral tweet, there are constantly job postings for Ellen on LinkedIn, and that's true. If you look under Ellen Digital Ventures, there's around a dozen job postings, with some as recent as 1 day ago. While I can't track how often these new postings go up, I do think it's interesting that when I look through some employee profiles, I literally couldn't find anyone who had been there for a year. Moving on to Glassdoor, it's not looking much better. Glassdoor is a website you can use to look up company reviews, salary information, and possible interview questions for different workplaces. So, once again, we're looking at Ellen Digital Ventures, which has a 3-star review. While every review here isn't all bad, most of them are. A former digital content producer wrote the following about her time working there. "This production has a fear-based culture. The executive producers expect you to drop everything when you're summoned, literally, and for you to ask how high when they command you to jump. If you're asked a question and don't have an answer, thoughts and prayers to you. Extremely cliquey, like the high school kind. If you aren't accepted, welcomed into the inner circle, then Godspeed. Work-life balance is non-existent. Compensation is far below what other productions pay around LA. Every person I've encountered in LA who asks how my time was here, and I tell them, and they're never surprised. It's common knowledge in the industry that working here is rough. May the odds be ever in your favor if you choose to work here. Another says, honestly, the company always makes sure no bad reviews get out because they're always trying to cover their butts. It's the worst company in the industry. Nothing you see on TV is really what it's like behind the scenes. People are rude, beyond racist, and always want to see each other fail. Everyone is in competition with each other, and no one treats each other with respect. It's the most racist company I've ever seen, and Ellen herself is just as mean and rude. There's no work-life balance, no room to grow, no sense of understanding or compassion for staff. Obviously, take these reviews with a grain of salt because they are anonymous, but that bit about the company trying to cover their ass and keep a good reputation makes for a good segue. Like I said, I personally know a few people who've been employed by Miss Ellen DeGeneres, and unfortunately, their stories are no better. The first girl I contacted, who I worked with on a different show prior to her employment at Ellen, told me right off the bat that she couldn't say anything because she's under a non-disclosure agreement. I did find out, though, that she left the company in 2018, which means all of Ellen's employees probably have an NDA that extends 5-ish years or even longer after employment. But without getting any comment from her, I do think this proves a lot on its own. While NDAs are commonplace in the entertainment industry, I've worked on multiple shows and networks and have never been asked to sign one, and to my knowledge, most NDAs have to do more with respecting the privacy of celebrity guests and not the actual workplace. I don't know about you, but I don't know any companies with amazing policies and great workplace morale forcing employees to sign a contract that makes sure they never tell people what goes on behind closed doors. Moving on, I have a few specific stories from other former employees that kind of drive home the idea that Ellen is a bit of a tyrant behind the scenes. Multiple people who worked as production assistants told a story about this trash can by the stage that is Ellen's and Ellen's only. Apparently, she chews gum before the show and has that trash can there specifically so she can throw it away before she walks on stage. There was one incident I was told about where someone unknowingly threw a piece of trash in there, and that ended up wreaking havoc. Ellen allegedly walked around the office with said piece of trash, interrogating everyone and asking who did it. Another former employee I spoke with worked construction at Ellen's house and was given a super strict set of rules that included not wanting to be looked at in the eye. That's actually something I've heard multiple times from different people at her office as well. But not only did she not want to be looked at in the eye, the construction workers were given strict instructions to avoid walking by any windows without blinds or window treatments when walking to and from trucks because Ellen didn't want to see the workers at all. And one last story I have to share with you is from someone who worked security overnight, also at Ellen's house. Overall, this person said the experience was negative and mentioned that even though they were there overnight, they didn't have access to any coffee, food, or any other pleasantries during their shift. They also mentioned a specific instance where another security guard closed the gate into her house incorrectly somehow, and Ellen proceeded to send that employee text messages over the course of the next few days, harassing him and going on and on about that one mistake. Other than these random, very specific instances of what seems like some misplaced anger on Ellen's part, the overall consensus from what these former employees told me is that the show is very fast-paced, unforgiving environment that gives you no time to adjust before letting you go. The same can be said for most shows in the entertainment industry, yes, but having a high-pressure job does not have to mean a hostile work environment. And honestly, she doesn't really seem like that nice of a person on camera a lot of the time either. Obviously, every comedian has their shtick, but more and more, Ellen's has become embarrassing her guests. Like in this Dakota Johnson interview, where Ellen tries to make Dakota feel bad for not inviting her to her birthday party, and then she gets embarrassed by the truth and kind of looks like an a-hole.
When was your birthday?
It was October 4th.
October 4th. You turned 30.
I did.
And how was the party? I wasn't invited.
Actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen. You were invited. Last time I was on the show, last year, you gave me a bunch of about not inviting you, but I didn't even know you wanted to be invited.
Well, who doesn't want to be invited to a party?
Well, I didn't even know you liked me.
Of course I like you. You knew I liked you. You've been on the show many times, and don't I show like?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
But I did invite you and you didn't come, so.
This time you invited me?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
How do you know? I don't think so.
Ask everybody. Ask Jonathan, your producer. Who said you were?
I was
he's
invited?
right there.
Why didn't I go?
I don't know.
Was it? Oh yeah, I had that thing. It was probably in Malibu. That's too far for me to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
Or that time she put a hidden camera on her audience members with the specific intention of humiliating them.
That's so amazing. I mean, any of you could have taken more than one thing, and you didn't. Except for these ladies right here.
These are too small. Okay, I'm ready. I think the large is okay, I'm gonna go. Can you go? Can we get more stuff?
Then she goes back and she returns one of her stolen items and she switches it out for a hat. All right. Hi.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg. We have other public instances where people got really upset with Ellen, like her forgiving Kevin Hart's homophobic comments on behalf of the whole LGBT community, or defending her friendship with George W. Bush because his actions have never affected her directly. Listen, I don't know if Ellen DeGeneres is a bad person, and honestly, that's not really for anyone to decide. But I do think it's interesting that she's somehow been granted this squeaky clean, family-friendly, ultra-sweet public persona when that's clearly not the case. It's entirely possible for someone who's a great person to just so happen to also be a terrible boss, but I don't think that's the case here. And something just feels wrong about seeing Ellen give away vacations and huge sums of money to her audience while her employees are underpaid and overworked.